heads up high and beat the drum to what we love. Risk the fall, or we have felt it all come crashing down from far above. Stars are rising, countless worlds colliding, only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make the final call? We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, the champions of the world that we defy. A solo ride of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last light.
And welcome to another Division 1 game of the G Series 7 ICS. I am Ty Celtic Tiger Brennan, and alongside me is Dan Arville Fontos. And this is going to be the two top teams of Division 1 at the moment. This is going to be Sentinel Gaming versus Nuclear Storm Gaming. How are we doing, Dan?
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm doing pretty good myself, actually. How are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to a good game. These are the two guys sitting top of the leaderboard and have shown some pretty convincing performances over the past while. We'll see how they do when they face off against each other, though, as the bans are coming out pretty quickly.
Even though the nerfs that came into the Poppy is still probably one of the heaviest top laners to deal with, just because of the sheer amount of CC she provides and the ability to flank the enemy team using a properly placed teleport. So I'm not really bummed to see that pop into the ban list. But honestly, we already can see 3 of the 4 bans being targeted on the top lane.
Well, yeah, you could see the Tam Kench is specifically for Bush, who has played it in the last 3 games they've won, so it makes sense to ban it out. Also, the Fiora has been banned in the last 3 games against him. We'll see if that comes out again for NSG. Lulu has been a fairly standard ban against Coco Pops, who's had some pretty surprisingly dominant performances for what's generally used as a utility carry in that Lulu, so gonna remove that. He'll probably go back to something like Victor or Orianna.
And so far, we have not seen a single AD carry ban, which is going to be really interesting because everyone's available so far. And Corki should be a priority pick, in my opinion, if he gets left up. And apparently he is, but still, Bush picks up the Lucian. They apparently prefer mobility over big burst.
Okay, and I'm just being told there as well that that Janna ban is a Callista ban, so that is the first AD carry ban coming out, and it looks like it doesn't really matter to NSG, who have locked in that Lucian anyway.
All right, just a quick question in terms of catching up. I only see 2 bans on the
That
side
is
of
actually
Javelin.
what I'm being told. Yeah, it's the Callista that was banned for no ban. That's the Janna banned against Sentinel there. So Callista
Okay, so
banned against Devils there.
I see. Yeah, and because of the Lucian has been picked up, especially because you want to secure a flex pick, I think Corki should be the one that instead of the Ezreal gets logged in for the side of NSG, but they still have yet to consider probably a top laner actually because of all these bans. But with the elites logged in, that Ezreal is most likely going to be an AD carry into the Lucian.
And it looks like that, and they haven't picked up the support yet. Slut can play pretty much anything into this, and I'd expect last time Hustlin had Janna taken away from him, he went for that Nami, but he usually picks that when the other person picks Janna. So we'll see what he does go for in that support, because Janna is really his go-to support. On the other side, we're seeing the Elise and Ezreal, who are pretty strong picks in the current meta, Elise being one of the stronger junglers. And then, as you mentioned previously, there is the Corki, and that is also going to be a Malphite.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see that NSG decided to leave up the Corki that is just now free to rotate into the mid lane as a safe pick for the side of Javelin Gaming. But what I'm more surprised about is that with all these potential support bans coming into place, Alistar has not been picked up yet either. And Alistar is, in my opinion, definitely to go to the go-to champion, especially with these bans already around.
Yeah, it's funny because neither of these support players, while they do play pretty much every support but Alistair, it's just they seem to avoid the pick, and as you said, it's really good, especially with Windspeaker's Blessing coming in. So I'm just wondering why not pick it up, but it looks like they're going to leave it. Neither have banned it, neither have picked it, and that's going to
There
be the
we go.
Nautilus probably going to the top lane, honestly, because that's the last time we've seen it picked from these guys.
Yeah, I would be really happy to see a Nautilus on the top lane, especially considering how Nautilus came into play yesterday and the day before with the LCS. I'm really interested to see if that Nautilus actually goes to top lane. What's his build gonna be? Is he gonna be including Zizirot's Portal and maybe even Banner of Command just to be an annoying split pusher? Because um, they ran Nautilus into the Malphite exactly and into a Poppy, I believe, during these days of the LCS as well. And neither of these characters can really deal efficiently with a Banner of Commanded up minion, especially Malphite, because 80% of his damage output is going to be magic damage, and it's just going to be so slow to grind out those Easy Rots and Banner of Command.
Yeah, and that's what was picked into the Malphite as well, whereas he went the traditional tank Nautilus against the Poppy. So I'd be interested. I mean, considering they are picking it specifically into the Malphite, I'd almost be surprised to say that they don't kind of at least rush the banner, maybe not the portal, depending how the lane goes. But I'd like to see that early pickup. And on top of that, if you look at that lane as a whole, I mean, they've so much CC lockdown, and then if Limitless comes up, that could be a good kill for him. And on top of that, you've Howl on a really good roaming mid laner in that LeBlanc. So be interested to see if they try and make anything happen in that top lane early.
And just generally speaking, NSG already has a lot of single target CC, and they have a pretty solid initiation in that Nautilus ultimate. And whoever gets knocked up, Malphite definitely has to be in between the Elise and the knocked up target, because the chain CC on a single target that NSG has right now is just crazy. And that Zillion, I don't think that's something NSG is looking to pick up. If that Zillion is going to be there, Morgana denies him everything. Alright, so Trundle support or Trundle top lane? Hopefully Trundle support.
Looks like that's what they're going to go for, as they do leave it there for the time being. And it's a decent support pickup as well. Into the Morgana as well, it forces the binding to have to go on to either, first of all, either find the Ezreal or shut down the Trundle's engage. But I think realistically, they're just going to play that lane fairly safe and just use the pillar to disengage from the Lucian's engages.
And the other reason Trundle might be really good into this bot lane matchup is because his pillar, sure, the Morgana Black Shield will deny the slow element, but if you place the pillar well enough, Morgana would still have to walk around the pillar itself, providing another 2 to 3 auto attacks time for the Ezreal and the Trundle, and that could be devastating. Also, I think it's worth noting that there's going to be a cleanse onto Cocoa Pops for the mid lane. He will be able to cleanse away the ethereal chain and the cocoon if a gank would come in. But I think what's more important is the moment you get, especially in a team fight, the start of the CC chain. If that can happen before Cocoa Pops can use the package, that's probably the biggest way Javelin Gaming can lose a team fight, and the cleanse is just going to deny that from happening.
Yeah, I think it is a good pickup, especially considering, as you said, there's a lot of CC and CC that follows once a single one lands. So, especially on the pick like Corki, who wants to scale up really well and wants to stay as safe as possible in these fights, it just adds that extra layer of safety. And it's cleanse isn't something unusual for Cocoa Pops. He often picks it up on his mid laners. Of course, his mid laners tend to be slightly less mobile, things like the Victor and Orianna, but it still works excellently for these kind of 80 carry mid laner.
Oh yeah, and also the cleanse itself just reduces the amount of threats, as I've mentioned, with a Morgana already picked up. Now, Javelin Gaming has the option to just use the Black Shield, probably even onto the Morgana, who just wants to get into as many enemies as possible for the well-placed ultimate. And if the Morgana is not forced to use the Black Shield onto either Cocoa Pops or Sonic, then there's basically only the Elise that can efficiently get outside of the Soul Shackle range.
Yeah, and on top of that, you're talking about forcing engages with the Morgana. You also have a Malphite who's excellent at doing that, and then you can follow up with the Soul Shackles. So, an interesting kind of combo you have on the side of Sentinel here, with the sense that you can throw Malphite in and put down a Phosphorus Bomb, which especially towards that kind of, you're looking mid-game spike, that'll be a lot of damage onto the carries of Nuclear Storm. So if they decide to go for a kind of wombo combo, or if Boosh maybe holds on to that to make sure his AD carries are in the best position possible, maybe use it as a bit of a disengage safety tool.
My only issue right now with the lineup or the setup of Javelin Gaming is that they are really heavy on the side of magic damage. Although Lee Sin and Lucian should be able to deal sufficient amounts of physical damage, the Trundle is going to get loads of resists stolen, most likely from the Malphite in every single team fight, and then Bat Rastard can just build those items we have mentioned earlier, and he's going to get so much magic resist. If he just builds a single Thorn Mail or a single armor item, I think that should already be enough to last him in terms of physical damage, and he can fully itemize against the magic aspect of this Javelin lineup.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about that is we saw that a bit more in Division 2. We'll see if Division 1 have the same issue with it. When Malphite forces an engage and the Trundle either isn't caught up in it or someone else isn't caught up in it, you get the subjugate down, and suddenly the Malphite is in the usual position where he ults in, he uses his combo, and then just walks out or just tries to get in the way. But when subjugate's down on him, he suddenly finds himself in this weird position where he's really not as tanky as he's used to, so the carries can burst him down very quickly if he doesn't manage to ult all of them.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what Javelin Gaming has to do. They have ways to pile up CC and a huge burst onto the enemy team, combining mostly with the packages that should be available every now and then for the Corki. But with the Lee Sin and the Elise, it's going to be a really interesting early game seeing which jungler gets ahead, because realistically these teams are both looking for the around level 6-7ish early dragon fights, as we see Corki pick up the corrupting potion because he's going to be trying to trade auto attacks as well early on.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. Just try sustain in the lane, don't get bursted down by the LeBlanc, and then you can look to scale. And I'm interested to see if Howl can manage to force something this mid lane, because that has been a really important part of how NSG has transitioned a lot of these wins, with a lead coming from the mid lane and then a lot of roams. I'll see if Howl does that again, and he's on the perfect champion to do it if he can manage to force anything.
Boosh taking a bit of damage. I don't think he realized there was a ward in the Tribrush placed by the Elise, just out of safety. Boosh still goes ahead and wards the Krugs, so this is going to give a pretty good idea where Limitless is going to start his jungle route, but both of the teams were completely spread out. That indicated pretty heavily that there's going to be no level 1 aggression.
Yeah, and I mean the spread as well, it was interesting in the sense that it looked like Boosh had just put himself out of position, but felt safe enough. His jungler was relatively close by, but putting the ward that deep was a bit of a risk, but being Malphite, having that granite shield back up, he felt he could take it.
Yeah, I guess Lee Sin was already in the middle of river as well, so he could have spotted anyone who tried to flank the Malphite, because that was the only way Malphite could actually go down, because the LeBlanc always starts with distortion. There's just no way she's gonna deny herself the AoE clear against a Corki level 1, and then there's no other CC coming in level 1, so Malphite did a relatively safe trick, and it actually worked out. They have full vision of the Elise.
Yeah, interestingly, Coco Pops has just opted to start that Gatling gun, knowing that the distortion puts Howl in a position that he's kind of forced to just sit there and take a lot of it.
And not just that, the Gatling gun is the safest and most easy way, I think, in the entire game to proc your Thunderlord's Decree, because it deals 3 sources of damage in less than 0.3 seconds. So the moment you use it and LeBlanc is in front of you, you proc Thunderlords as well. And he, like Coco Pops, has won all these early trades so far.
But he is kind of losing a lot of that corrupting potion, but at the same time he has forced both pots out of Howl, so we'll see if Howl continues to trade. Now that he has that Q up, his level 2 is a lot stronger than his level 1 was. See if he can continue to kind of survive them out with the corrupting potion, or if Howl can actually manage to burst him down.
It's going to be risky because
hovering in the area.
Elise is going to be coming around.
And this is going to be the gank. That's actually the cocoon missing, and then he's just going to Valk out, but that's the ethereal change, that's force, that's going to be the cleanse as well, and that's going to be good force from NSG there to get both summoners out, and they can just kind of go back and do that again.
Yeah, I really like the decision making from the side of Howl and Limitless, because they could have decided to use the Ignite combined with the Flash of Elise to secure a kill, but the moment they saw Corki just pop both of his summoners, they decided to turn back, not take it the risky route, especially seeing how Lee Sin was already nearby. I think this was the correct choice. Now LeBlanc just has such a crazy advantage in the lane.
And we're seeing the top lane, some close trades there, forcing Boosh back, but at the same time it's Nautilus who's being pushed in, and you're seeing with the Thunderlords it looks like Black Rasters is going to go back to the AP Nautilus he played previously, which didn't work out so well for them then. We'll see if it works out for them this time.
It's gonna be a bit weird to see this sort of AP-ish Nautilus because of the Grasp of the Undying. The lack of the Grasp of the Undying, I feel Malphite has a clear edge, and Hustlin just eats a cocoon, but nothing else gonna happen because Lee Sin's realistically too far away. At least they know where the Elise is, and they might try to do something around the
They're
Gromp.
going to continue forward. That's going to be Elliot catching Elise, but nothing from there. I think Limitless took the right route there, take the safe one out, and he does escape what could have been a bad situation for him.
So Boosh is maxing Ground Slam for the wave clear, and that was actually a good attempt to pull Boosh under the turret. He would have been the one and only target under the turret for actual focus, and I think he would have received at least 2 shots before getting out of there, but he was just not in the correct range yet.
Yeah, and we're seeing that Mana Crystal early on, just for the mana sustain in lane for this Nautilus, and I think from there it will almost certainly be the Catalyst Roa build that we saw previously.
Yeah, that should happen. Nautilus is a bit behind in CS, but that shouldn't be a big deal.
Him going down. Elliot's here though, and is going to protect him, and that's going to be Howl having to flash away. And that's the real him though. That's going to be First Blood going over, and that's a pretty good trade from Elliot there. Really good timing to actually catch Howl out as he went for the all-in.
And this is a huge issue now for NSG because LeBlanc had the clean summoner spell advantage and still dies because she does not ward the side brushes before going aggressive. She didn't even wait for the Elise to come around for a second surely kill landing gank actually. That was a pretty heavy mistake I think, and Howl now just falls behind so heavily because Corki, when he goes home next time, he is going to have a Hex Drinker already, and there's just no burst. I don't think there's big enough burst coming in from a combined source of magic damage on the side of NSG to just burst through that.
Yeah, and we saw previously, he almost managed to 100 to 0 him there with the Ignite. It didn't quite finish him off, but a few autos and it would have been it. But so just a bit of patience would have really paid off in that trade, but that's First Blood going over to Sentinel. We'll see what they can do with it.
And as far as I can see, Sonic has picked up Thunderlord's Decree as well. He's gonna try and pop as much damage onto the Ezreal as he can during those bindings and the Malphite ultimates, because if you take a look at the composition of NSG once again, you can't really hold an Elise and an Ezreal in one place for a really long time, and you really have to kill whoever gets landed the Malphite ultimate on.
Yeah, and I think it's just the quick burst that you're looking for in that combo, and it should work out pretty well for him, but you can see again, Elliot responding to Limitless before he can get anything done, and now it's going to be Limitless that looks like he might be caught out. Howl using this time to try wave clear. Really needs that level 6 if he's to do anything against this court.
Nautilus doesn't really have issues farming under the turret either, but it's gonna be weird seeing how he's gonna use the teleport. He interrupts Boosh at least.
And I think Boosh was looking to back, and again, talking about that teleport. Doesn't actually have it up for any teleport ganks, but looking for one soon, almost certainly, because those Malphite teleport ganks can be huge. And you see the amount of damage, he has got that early blasting wand onto the Nautilus, so it is a decent amount of damage onto the Malphite, who's only built Bami's Cinder thus far, hasn't built himself any MR.
Oh, honestly, the Malphite should be looking into picking up MR fairly soon, because the Elise coming in deals a good chunk of magic damage as well, so to protect himself in the lane, realistically, he's only looking to pick up magic resist.
Yeah, but I think he just wants the Bami's Cinder for the wave clear. As you've seen, he's been trying, maxing the ground slam as well, just making sure he can keep that wave as pushed as possible. You see, now Rastra's going to wait around hoping that Malphite overextends. He won't, and it'll just be another game of wave clear.
So still having the first blood, no turret advantage, there's almost a clean 1000 gold advantage on the side of Javelin Gaming, and that cleanly comes from the top and the mid lane advantage that that LeBlanc suffers against Coco Pops. And honestly, even though the Lee Sin seems lagging behind in the jungle, his build is just gonna make him that much stronger if both the Elise and the Lee Sin show up once again in the same lane. And the Hex Drinker is also completed onto the Corki, so one less potential blown up character on the side of Javelin Gaming, so to speak, and the first Drake should happen fairly soon as well.
Especially considering that they're building an AP Nautilus as well. Hex Drinker is actually a really good first pickup for this Corki because it makes it so hard for NSG to force anything onto him. Plus he have that cleanse going back up. He does actually have it now, so much safety for Coco in this mid lane. It's really going to be hard to force much off him.
I actually thought the Elise is going to go on the aggressive here because
this is going to be a good combo here against Hustle, and we'll see if Slug can follow it up. Don't have the damage yet though, he only has that tier machine.
Oh, Corki had the package.
But this is going to be the ultimate. Elise is going to try again onto Limitless. That's going to be the flash forward by Coco. It gets him the kill. That's going to be the cleanse. This might get him out as well. Limitless doesn't have anything to follow up and he's just going to walk away. You can see Batraster considering coming down but has been pushed in. Boost going just for the safety.
Yeah, Limitless didn't have any cooldowns available, and also he was ridiculously low on mana, so the only thing he could try to do to the Corki was in spider form, which is not nearly enough. And honestly, I didn't realize Elise did opt out from the gank because Corki had the package, and the package is just so strong early on. They could actually grab the dragon from this too.
Gonna be Batraster though, kind of caught out. Coco Pops is here, and he doesn't have the tankiness to deal with that. Forces the flash, and Boost is gonna follow him under the tower, and that's actually going to be another kill for Sentinel Gaming. And Sentinel are really starting to pull ahead in this game, and it doesn't seem that NSG have the response yet for them.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure why I said Javelin earlier, but this Corki is already huge. 201, 10 minutes into the game, and Corki is the one and only character, or champion rather, that you really don't want to get rolling this early into the game, because LeBlanc, aside from farming, accomplished nothing this game so far.
Yeah, and it's been pretty rough. You got the 0-2-0 LeBlanc in the mid lane and a jungler who's been trying to get stuff mid, but since that Hex Drinker has been finished, and since of course that first gank worked out in getting summoners but hasn't been able to have a good response to it, haven't been able to do anything against this Corki, and it looks like he's going to be building towards that Triforce, and the game keeps going as it is. He'll finish it before NSG have come up with any form of way of slowing him down.
I really like roll LeBlanc. That's a risky way to come in. I really like the positioning of the Morgana as well, because it's so very easy to read if a Trundle is going to go on the aggressive. Hustlin is just constantly placing himself behind Sonic, as Sonic, even if he gets a relatively nasty Pillar of Filth from the Trundle, he can still dash through it, and the Black Shield should stop anything from happening to that Lucian. So even though Elise and LeBlanc both came bottom, nothing happened.
That's a good pillar though, puts him in a bad position, but Sonic actually walks up to kind of protect him, and that's going to be Slut trying to force it anyway, but Devils just doesn't have the mana or the damage right now to follow it up.
That was a really deceptive Morgana engage, because I think if she popped the ultimate right then and there, she would have had the healing from Sonic to just being able to proc the second stack of Soul Shackles as well.
That's
Boost
going to
might
be
be in
Limitless
trouble.
in the top lane. The hook has already been forced by Batraster, so he doesn't have anything to follow this up on. He tried to land the hook before the gank came in, so wasn't able to get anything after that.
Once again, a huge problem on the side of Limitless. He could not wait another 10 seconds in the brush to just wait out Nautilus's ultimate, because there was a pink ward, and already Corki and Lee Sin were already on their way bottom.
This
top.
could be the gank as well. Elliot should have his flashes forward to kick him back, and doesn't even really need the damage from Coco, although it does mean that Elise goes down immediately, and this should be top tower.
They don't even care that depth charge is available, even though LeBlanc transitioned to the top lane. I don't think this is a fight they are looking for.
And you can see how having to use the distortion just to get out of there, and the push is going to continue, and it's looking like the ferocity game against Coco as well. He gets ahead, and now they're not able to do anything. That's going to be a really nice response with the Malphite ultimate. Tries to hook him in onto the tower, but it looks like Batraster is going to be the only one going down, and another force by NSG gives Sentinel more kills.
Really, really good rotations from the side of Sentinel Gaming, because they constantly have vision on at least 3 members of the enemy team, and they know that they can still afford diving a tier 2 turret as they have the members advantage on the top lane. And in the meantime, Lucian is just farming up. Never mind, you don't stop the Ezreal from farming. Sure, he will have those 2 core items by the time we get to the team fighting phase, but if Lucian does not fall behind, the Corki, the Malphite, and even the Lee Sin now are just so heavily ahead. Even if Ezreal would have an advantage over the Lucian, that would not matter, honestly, because it's not even Ezreal at this point that Sentinel Gaming is looking to blow up with the combo, as we have a Zizirot portal from the Malphite.
Yeah, and it looks like it's working really well for them, especially as you said, they do have the lead now, so they're able to force people away from these towers. So Corki just poking them out, the Zeroth portal doing the pushing for them. It's going to be really difficult for NSG to stop this push.
Well, Batrastard is still kind of stuck in the top lane. He's even forced to recall. He's not going to be
Hustle's going to force the Soul Shackles, going to try get Limitless, forces a flash, flashes after him, but doesn't quite get the stun, gets cocooned instead, and that's going to be Boosh just sitting on top of them autoing. Doesn't look like they have the cooldowns to fight this right now, but very soon they will, and they have the Zeroth portal there, just tanking up a few tower shots here and there, and doing a bit of damage.
Oh, there's going to be a big Zizirot minion coming in as well. That's going to help the push, but the package is available for Corki, and if they want to secure something else aside from this mid lane turret, Corki should just go back and make sure the fight goes their way.
But it looks like they're just going to force their whole way up the mid lane. They still have the Zeroth portal, they still have those big minions, so at some point to stop this push, they're going to have to go down really far to get that portal, which is actually sitting under Sentinel's mid-outer tower, so a really difficult place for them to get to. And it looks like Devils is going to look for Elliot here, but Elliot almost doing half his health, would have finished him off there, but that's actually going to how jumping over the wall, gets the kill, and now Boosh is caught out, but he has the black shield on him. Hustling and Coco Pops over the other side. This is not a place you want to be when you have a Corki against you, really fed. Now Boosh is almost dead, and that's going to be the Nautilus ultimate onto Coco Pops, but they don't have CC to continue the push. And now it's going to be Hustling, possibly getting caught out by a Cocoon, but doesn't really have the follow-up there. Howl is coming around the backside, and that's going to be finished to a pretty big move from NSG to start showing that they have some signs of the game, but it looks like Coco might force more kills, and an odd dragon call from NSG almost cost them their lives.
It was a really odd call. That Hustling Black Shield makes him survive as well. It was a really odd call because you, I think, or NSG should have been happy enough that Devil survived this entire exchange with the Lucian, because he had to use both summoners and Lucian decided to turn right around the corner, whereas Devils was able to make a left turn without Lucian seeing him. So everybody survives on the side of NSG, but right now what they did was perfect, because catching out enemies one by one was the only way they could pick up kills, and they finally managed to just make use of their single target CC and burst that they had available. And now Malphite is going to start pushing that bottom lane turret, because bottom lane is the only place an easily manageable objective is still available for Sentinel Gaming.
And you can actually see there's 2 Zeroth portals up at the moment. The one in the mid lane has just gone down, but the bot lane one is just going to continue the push there, and the outer tower is still up in the bot lane. I can't imagine it's going to be up for too long. I imagine they're either going to force something top side from this Sentinel side, or they're just going to group around that bot lane Zeroth portal like they did in the mid lane, and hopefully not get caught out this time.
Well, the Zizirot portal has been placed really magnificently right behind the turret, so it's still in range to deal some damage to the tier 1 turret, but it's far enough for the Ezreal to get close enough. And if NSG decides to contest this dragon, the Zizirot portal is going to do the work, and bottom lane's tier 1 turret is going to suffer the consequences. Everyone is around the Drake now. This is going to be fun.
Limitless is on the other side trying to catch the Cocoon onto it. Boosh actually only catches out Slut in that, but he is distracting everyone else from the other side, which means Batrastard goes down. And now it's going to be the culling trying to keep them away. And it looked like Boosh had a bad ultimate there, but all he did was keep 3 members away while the rest of NSG tried to force the engage.
Yeah, because I think the directed camera tricked us, because the way it portrayed Boosh's ultimate onto a single Trundle, you could argue that's the worst
it looks
target.
like it's going to be the dive here, though. Hustling tried to predict the Arcane Shift, but it doesn't matter because Soul Shackles are there, and still not much damage on the Ezreal to actually burst out Hustling in the meantime, so this should be bot tower.
I have to give it to Hustlin. If he actually managed to project where Ezreal is gonna jump and land a Dark Binding like that, that would have been props, but still a good try. He made sure that at least one slow is on top of the Ezreal with the sure landing Soul Shackles.
Well, that's actually going to be a nice combo from Howl to take him out, but in the meantime, the Dark Binding did land, so they end up trading kills, and this is going to be Limitless almost certainly going down as well. Coco actually tanking the tower for it, and that's going to be Elliot around the other side. Bat Rastard now here for the safety, but Limitless does get caught out. Bat Rastard almost managed to get the kill. This might be it. This AP damage is actually quite a big amount onto the Nautilus, and now going to force something onto Coco Pops, but he has the Hex Drinker, not the target you really want to go for, and forced to Valkyrie away, and now Boosh is here to tank it up. Devils could try get kills onto Coco Pops and Sonic now that they have their shields forced out, and that's going to be the ultimate onto Coco. Doesn't do much because he still has that MR even if he doesn't have the shield, and they're just going to have to back away from this.
The problem is Ezreal doesn't have the Iceborne Gauntlet just yet, so the only amount of CC is coming in from the Nautilus, and he himself is just not tanky enough to slide into a Corki Lucian at this time, because he has the damage, sure, but the moment the depth charge went onto cooldown, there's really not much else they could look for. I honestly feel the heal from Sonic was a bit over the top as well, but it was needed because how unexpectedly Corki walked into the Ezreal ultimate, honestly.
Yeah, and just does work out for them now, but at forcing 2B summoners, that means the summoner's down for the next fight as well, and you can see that LeBlanc really does have burst available, but is kind of struggling to find openings.
So the Rift Herald has just despawned, no one picked it up yet. And with this mid lane push, because they forced Ezreal onto the bot lane previously, that's a big enough burst, but it's not right target actually, I think.
Yeah, that's just the Q ultimate as well, which means he can follow it up later on with a full combo and hopefully burst someone down, but you see that he forcing the ult into distortion means that he really started to struggle. And Wing in there cost him most of his HP and is just going to have to back now.
This is extremely risky from LeBlanc, because if Boosh reacts or he has good reflexes, the moment LeBlanc distorts, Boosh can just ultimate and that's one member down already. And aside from LeBlanc, they don't have wave.
And here's that Rasmus around the other side. That's going to be the combo going on to hell, but it doesn't matter. He's already dead and Sonic takes out the wave, so it makes it that much more difficult to follow from the side of NSG.
Yeah, even though they don't really have proper wave clear outside of the LeBlanc, this is a huge problem now for Sentinel Gaming. They just overextend it too much. They really need to use the Corki and the Morgana to try and poke down the enemies before going in like that.
The hook almost landing, but it turns out that he takes the Dark Binding for it, and that's going to be the Nautilus ultimate, sorry, forced out as well. So depth charge down, Nautilus and Limitless have to back. So going to be another siege up from Sentinel, and it looks like it's going to work out for them.
Earlier this game I wanted to say that I would not be surprised if Lucian would eventually pick up a Hex Drinker himself, but it is actually the Lee Sin who builds this as his rather third item, I guess, and it's a really good pickup for him as well, because they need the damage, they need to burst someone down. Realistically, it should be LeBlanc they are looking for in every single fight, and this just gives him all the more protection as well.
Yeah, and you've seen that right now Devils have been really struggling to do damage, so they don't need armor this early. And considering everyone else in the team is AP based damage, really probably the best pickup right now is that kind of MR focus that you're seeing coming out from pretty much every Sentinel player.
The problem for NSG is that they are late to rotating and just following Sentinel Gaming around, and they can only look for these team fights or these pickups when every single ultimate, especially the depth charge, is available. And the moment it goes on cooldown, Sentinel Gaming just rotates to another less protected lane and grabs another tier 2 turret. So now the Ezreal, the true shot barrage is even forced to just wave clear.
That's going to be a nice Malphite ultimate, knocking up 4 members. Howl's the only one who managed to get out of it, but it looks like there's going to be plenty going down anyway. Huge soul shackles as well. Actually catches out most people. That's Limitless gets caught in it and does a double kill so far for Lucian. Can't get any more. Limitless almost going down. Devils will be the next if this lands onto him, and this is going to be Sonic following up. It does get it as the triple kill. Slut also possibly going down. A nice pillar keeps him alive, but not for long. That's the flash, and that's a quadra kill for Lucian. And can't quite get the penta. Elise back, but Elise is here now. If they can catch her out, this could be the penta. Can he do it? Elise sitting pretty far back and has the home guard.
And he probably will not go for the Penta because they will just play this out safe. But we have seen the Elise during the fight on less than 100 HP. So if we could have seen another Piercing Light, that was actually a potential Pentakill onto the Lucian. But this is what we've just talked about. You don't want to stick around and protect these outer objectives when you are NSG and you don't have every resource available to just go into a team fight. Bush landed a Foreman ultimate, and the key point there was LeBlanc dying before getting to flash, ignite, or even use the ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, she managed to get out just out of the Malphite ultimate, was the only person not caught in it, but ended up having to use the chains onto the Malphite in an attempt to protect the team. Didn't work out, and the rest of the Sentinel team was able to follow up, and it's pretty much over from there.
The big problem is you started to put together a composition that can skirmish early, has semi-wave clear, but it just takes so long for the Ezreal to be a potentially scary target. I don't see it happening this game because the next objective, especially with a package once again picked up by Corki, should be the Baron for Sentinel Gaming.
Sentinel are going to take this dragon, which is pretty safe first though, so we'll see. Ezreal has finally managed to get that Iceborne Gauntlet, but with that mid-inhib already down, it could well be too late.
Malphite doesn't have the ultimate available, I mean the teleport available, so Bush is kind of in a risky position, but this just tells me that Sentinel Gaming is not even considering going for the Baron, because they're just gonna brute force this bottom inhibitor open.
Because while that inhib is down as well, it makes it pretty easy for them to push, especially because they have that Zeroth's portal, which isn't helped by Baron, actually, so they're just going to continue the push, leave the portal there, and now that the portal is in the bot lane, at least one person's going to have to stay there.
Yeah, now it's going to be the Baron call. Hopefully, they had to clear 2 pink wards in the vicinity previously, so NSG is at least fully aware, and this is where the problem kicks in for Nautilus. He can't really clear the Zizoroth efficiently either.
Yeah, and I mean, AP, while it is some form of damage, is not enough, and that's Howl again getting a good combo off. Not quite able to clear out Hustlin though, because the Ethereal Chains does miss, and it looks like Batrastard and Boosh just gonna try have a quick skirmish of their own in the bottom lane even. And Boosh is gonna back and just leave his portal there in hopes that it will push out, but Howl is doing a good job right now at getting his combos off and forcing them away from some of these what would be easy objectives, but looks like they're still grouped around the Baron. They might swap to the top lane though.
Bush might have to consider backing away here because now Sentinel Gaming lacks the proper vision onto the enemies, and LeBlanc will make it here.
Yeah, that's going to be the ult used as the distortion, and actually the Ethereal Chain sticks after that ultimate goes off, so that's going to be him going down. They're going to probably try force the Baron on the other side of the map. You already see Corki and Lucian there. That's Elliot joining them on that Lee Sin, so expect it now. And Direct to Camera wants to watch the portal go down, but it's going to take a little while.
This is a pretty rushed call because they don't have a proper tank. Everyone has MR.
And that's actually going to be them forced out just by Slut walking forward and the TP coming in, but it's actually Slut that gets chunked out, uses the subjugate onto Corki, and that's going to be the cleanse a little early, and it might cost him his life. Not quite though. It's Hustlin that goes down first. Elliot's Banshee saves him so far. Sonic actually gets the kill. That's going to be Elliot. A huge kick actually completely destroys everyone.
No way.
Gonna be a quadra kill. This could be the Penta now. Uses the Mikhails just to stop the slow. Sonic gonna continue chasing forward. Batrastard gonna try combo him, but it's not enough, and Coco steals the Penta from him in what was a pretty damn good ace from Sentinel Gaming.
The teleport is available as well, but that's, I don't think, the correct target you want to go for, because the one of the Nexus turrets was fairly low already, so I think Malphite should have grabbed that instead, because of both of the side lanes were just pushing quite alright on their own.
I suppose get the inhib tower now, it saves them sieging up later, and if they're sieging at the Nexus, it's probably already not going well for NSG. Gonna respond in time to at least save the inhib, but with that inhib tower down, it's not too difficult now for the side of Sentinel to just go up there and take it themselves.
So just going back to this previous team fight, Bush overextended. That's pretty clear, and he got punished for it. The problem was Sentinel Gaming tried to cope for this with just rushing up the Baron Nashor, and it's not something you're looking for. Something you are looking for when every single member of your team has piled up so much magic resist and not armor and health whatsoever.
You saw also the depth charge being forced onto Boosh meant that when Raster TP'd in, even if he had flashed forward or anything, he just didn't have the full combo available to take out any of the carries. And it was good timing from Sentinel to back away, but that's going to be a really nice ultimate onto Devils, and that's going to force Boosh's flash as well, but it doesn't really matter as that's going to be another kill for them. A good combo from Howl again, almost killing out Hustlin, but not quite enough. And that's going to be a good hook onto Coco, and that's going to be him almost certainly going down to Howl. Not quite though, because of the amount of MR he's built thus far. And it's going to be Raster finishing him off in the back, but Sonic is just tearing through the rest of the NSG lineup, and he's going to continue to do so. That's a double kill, that's the triple kill, and that's going to be Elliot trying to catch up with the Nautilus, maybe give Sonic the Quadra, and it's almost certainly going to be Quadra because there is no tower there anymore. That's going to be Sonic eating forward, not really going to be comboed out by Raster. That's going to be the ace again from Sonic, where he gets another Quadra kill, no Penta.
And that's going to be the game as well, without any Penta going over to Sonic. My only issue with the build or the decisions that Sentinel Gaming has made this game is, if you know that you have to focus so much on magic resist, why do you want to force the Morgana to build a Zhonya's Hourglass instead of completing the Locket of the Iron Solari? Because that's the only item completely missing from the side of Sentinel Gaming.
Well, it's just... they really didn't seem all that worried about the damage that was coming onto them, and they were fairly tanky. You even saw full combos going onto Corki, just did nothing with between the Maw shield and the Triforce bit of health that he gets there as well. He just wasn't taking damage from most of those carries, so a really well played, well built Corki kind of centered the comp, and then Sonic was just able to tear up those fights with his full damage.
And it was also really weird to see. I mean, where did the solution come from? The first 13 minutes of the game revolved so heavily around the Corki, and then in the end, it's the 0-0-0 Lucian that comes into play well after the 15th minute mark that actually makes the cleanup and secures 14 kills eventually. That's crazy in 29 minutes, looking at the fact that you really did not participate in team fights for 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, a well-played game from Sentinel Gaming. Commiserations to Nuclear Storm, although this only puts them drawing second on the table, so I'm sure they're not too upset. And it leaves Nuclear Storm as our number one in Division 1 going into the next round. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.